Doesn't even know who Kim
According
Jong-il is.
to what I'm hearing here, we could have blown Korea off the map. Why couldn't George Bush talk to him by himself?
Would be-
if you
because
just
that's
put a
not-
hole in the world,
that's-
do you
For
think
all the people who complain about George Bush not being worldly, this is one example where he finally stepped up to the plate and became worldly, and he involved some very, very intimidating countries, including our sworn enemies, to put the hammer down on North Korea.
No hammer.
As far as I'm concerned,
No hammer.
we can
He's
pay
paying
them.
them.
Well, we have to.
Bill
What's the
Clinton was going to
alternative?
pay him. George Bush said no.
What's the alternative? You gotta
That's what
buy
I'm
these
saying.
nutcases
But
off at some point.
6 years ago, we could have paid
Well,
them.
we could bomb them. But
No,
what is
why
right,
didn't
you know,
we pay
we
him
don't want to
6
do that.
years ago? We could have been paying him today.
Why? I guess one thing that the problem I'm having here is you are aware that I, as a black man only, when you call an Asian a nutcase, can you understand why I disagree with you? And I hope you don't say you can't.
No, I've been listening to Mark called George
I'm not
Bush
talking about
a
Mark.
moron.
I'm talking
So
about
I,
Ken.
you know,
Well, you ain't. I'm talking about me. I've made it plain, and if you look at me,
Right.
why don't I feel like you and Berger own anything? Why do you think
I
that
guess
is?
it's because
now, you've
you're
been
black.
in America
I mean,
all
you've been
your
bringing
life.
that
You
up.
guess. So you're sitting here
I don't
tonight
know.
saying you know you're what, 35, 40 years old?
42.
You know nothing about why a black man would feel different from you.
Now,
Is
here's
this
the
what
only
you're
thing.
saying?
Here's the only thing, though, Onion, is you've
No,
been
I
talking
just
all
want
day
to-
about how your opinion, nobody
No,
can
I'm not
change
talking
your
about my
opinion.
opinion.
And
I'm
so the bottom line is, when
I'm
I'm
not
sitting here,
asking you to
when
change.
I'm sitting here, I'm not concerned about whether Onion Horton thinks I'm this or thinks I'm that.
I never
I'm
mentioned
sorry,
you.
I don't care.
I did it 40
So,
years
you
before
know,
you came around.
I understand that, but that's not what I'm
saying
thinking.
here, I asked you a simple
This
question.
is good.
Now, if you don't want to answer it, all you got to do
No,
is
no,
say
that's
no.
fine. I mean,
I'm saying
what's the
as
question?
long as you've been alive in America, as long as you've been white, as long as you've known the history of America, can you understand why I don't feel the way about the North Koreans that a white man would? Can you understand why I don't feel about the North Vietnamese the way a white man would? Can you understand why I don't feel about the Chinese communists the way a white man would? And if your answer is yes, tell me why you think I feel that way.
Is this the Onion Horton therapy hour,
Yeah,
or what is
well,
it?
Look, you can get out if you don't like it. I don't give a damn.
understand.
Now, if you want to answer,
I
damn it,
understand.
hit the damn door.
I understand how you feel.
I want you to say why or hit the door.
I understand how you feel.
Why?
But, you know,
Why?
well, because apparently you have some aversion to white people.
So you don't know why. Let's get that answer. You have no idea why I feel the way I
can't
do.
imagine why.
But I don't
I
think-
can't
I don't
imagine
think
why.
Onion.
That's
I
the
don't-
reason.
okay, but I don't think,
That's the
but
reason
Onion,
I feel.
but Onion,
You're sitting here
I
saying
don't
you've been
think-
42
Onion,
years in America,
I don't
and you
believe-
don't have no idea
Okay,
why
Onion,
a black
wait a
man
second.
You
would
want
feel
me, you want me to
But
talk
let
to
me
you
make this
about all
point,
the
Onion.
injustices to black people throughout history?
No,
Because
you
I
didn't
totally
name
agree.
one. You didn't name
I mean,
one.
I certainly
Let's
agree.
see.
Frame it.
But wait,
Why
don't you
If you want me to
ask?
seriously
I
answer that
just
question.
asked, can you
Time out.
understand?
Freeman has
Maybe
something
you
to
all can
say.
tell us how you feel about what has happened down in Louisiana.
Well,
with
wait a
Katrina,
second. No,
and
let's
what's
not
happened
do
down in
that.
Dallas.
The only
Let's
thing,
not do
the
that.
only thing,
I
the
understand,
only
Onion.
But see,
wait,
do I-
wait, one second, Jake.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Onion, but I think most white people in America
Don't.
understand what you're talking about.
They don't.
Okay,
So you're making an apology for white people?
No.
Is that basically what you're
Well,
doing?
I want to say this.
Can I just-
I think white people generally are stupid when it comes to knowing what black people are up to in this country. They don't understand what you have experienced. They have no idea. And you know what? They don't care. And that's what's worse.
That's why.
That's what's worse.
That's why.
And they
That's
don't
why I
care.
really.
But maybe
Yeah, we weren't even
care.
talking
It
about
wasn't
white
that they
people.
don't
We were talking
understand,
about
it's
the
that
North
they don't
Vietnamese.
Right,
We
right.
weren't
No,
even
they
talking
don't
about
care.
white
But see, what I'm trying to get at
We
is,
weren't even
though,
talking
if
about
I were
white
to
people.
ask the question, though, if I were to answer your question, why you don't feel the same way that other people do about the North
No, I said
Vietnamese,
white
or
people.
about
I
white
didn't
people
say
do
other
about,
people.
or
I
about
don't care about
Korea,
that.
or what have you.
Arabs and
All right,
Asians.
Okay. So you don't feel that way. Then I could go back and say, well, is it because blacks didn't really essentially have the vote in this country until 1964? Even I was alive in 1963, so I was alive at least a year before blacks even got the vote in this country.
You'd be hitting it on the head.
And let me ask you this.
You'd be hitting
but
it
see,
on the
but see,
head.
but see, I wouldn't compute, because you're expecting a little too much of my brain, I wouldn't compute that and throw that pain into a discussion of North Korea. I'm sorry I don't, but I can't. and if you teach me how I can possibly fold that into North Korea, then I can do it.
What I'm saying is, and I don't see that, there's a scripture in the Bible that says it's so simple that a little child could understand it. What I'm saying is that if we look at the history of the planet, which includes the yellow ones, the brown ones that he's talking about and all, nobody has killed many black people as Europeans. The Japanese haven't, the Asians haven't, the Arabs haven't. Nobody has killed as many black people as white people. So that should make it easy to understand why I would trust a North Vietnamese more than I would a white man.
Well, then
that's all I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying a person should agree with me. The question I always ask, can you understand why I might disagree?
Well,
and
believe it or not, not all white people
you don't have to give me that. I heard that.
Blacks.
But somebody did. One month ago, and we're not going back 600 years, 1 month ago, we had 20 white senators sit up in Washington and said, I'm not even going to say lynching was wrong. You remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
And you do a talk show. That was 1 month ago. It came up. You had 20 senators in 2005 said, I cannot say lynching black people was wrong. I can't vote to say that was wrong. They're sitting in Washington making laws right now, going to have a vote on what happens to all them black faces you saw in New Orleans. That's the reason I feel like I do.
But there are a lot of people, though, who, at the same time, many of us young. I consider myself still to be a young person,
right.
42. So, I hear about the greatest generation, and I always retort. I used to tease my dad about this. I said, yeah, you guys call yourself the greatest generation, but you didn't let blacks drink out of the same drinking fountains as you did. So how can you say you're... We had debates like that all the time.
Mm-hmm. And you were right.
But in this context of today's discussion, my only answer to you would be then, where are the black, if you don't trust whites to run the country or to guarantee your safety or to help you, then where are the black leaders? Where are the black candidates?
Yeah, where are they?
Let
me hold it. Certainly.
Yeah. For a surprise, he's got worse to say about the black leaders than he does about the white.
No. Here's what I'm saying: is certainly you're not saying that you think that it's a lack of black leadership with a gerrymandered civil rights law that 500 white people voted on and 30 black people. So what do you expect our 30 black representatives to offset the 500? Now, if there were 500 black people in Washington and 35 white people, then I could answer your question.
Well, then maybe it's too bad that Lacey Clay and the Gephardts all got together and Lacey gave up a lot of his constituency.
No, but he's still the Senate. He's still the Congress.
I understand that. So that's gerrymandering, which had the complicity of an African-American politician.
That district, and I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, it was Democrat long before the trade, and it still is. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So 40 years ago, when it wasn't but a handful of black people in the 2nd Congressional District, the Democrats had it as far back as Roosevelt. And we were voting Republican during that time. So I don't think you could lay it on Lacey Clay.
Oh no, I'm just saying that I think that if you fight for your constituencies and fight for your power base, then ultimately you will be able to hang on to your power base.
I don't think we have a power base. See, I don't think that if I got 40 and you got 500, it's hard for me to know where my power base is. Now, if I got 40 votes in Washington and you got 500, could you tell me where the vote is? And it's not a regional vote. The Civil Rights Act that's got to come up next year, that we've got to get about 220 white people to vote for us, to let us vote some more. Those 220 white people, we have no control over. So it isn't us, is it?
Well, aside from...
Is it us? We got to have 200 white votes to get
the
bill.
You're going to be lucky to get that.
Aside
You're going to be lucky to get that. Okay, but let me say this. What's worse is, and I know you won't disagree, obviously, John Roberts and whoever the next person is, and it might be Janice Rogers Brown, it might be Edith Clement Jones, it may be somebody crazy like that that's far more to the, there may not be far more to the right, but far more willing to admit how far to the right that they are. So, I mean, the problem